The wild heart of North Carolina, lush forests, winding trails, serene mountain vistas. Beautiful, but also mysterious. Tucked within those evergreen canopies, there are whispers, stories of strange sightings and encounters that defy reason. What was it they saw? A restless spirit, a lost legend, or something far more tangible and terrifying? Today, we follow their chilling tales, each more unsettling than the last, as they recount what truly lurks in the North Carolina wilderness. Welcome to Weird Encounters, a place where the ordinary fades into shadow and the unexplainable comes alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and become part of our ever-growing community of the curious. Now prepare yourself, because what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. I never thought I'd share this, but here I am. I've been hunting in Uwharrie for a few years, usually in the fall when the deer are more active. I was out near Baden Lake this past November, not too far from the Kings Mountain Point area, where there's a boat launch and some good trails. My plan was to set up my tree stand in a spot I've used before, kind of off the path where fewer people walk. Usually, the only sounds I hear are the breeze through the pines and maybe a squirrel skittering by. That night felt strange from the start, though. The sky got dark earlier than usual, and there was this almost eerie calm. No usual bird calls, not even crickets. I'd hiked in at dawn, hoping to camp overnight. Around dusk, I heard what sounded like wood knocking, which I've always heard might be a sign of Bigfoot or something, but I used to laugh it off. Anyway, it was a steady tap, tap, tap from across a small valley. It didn't sound like a woodpecker. The knocks were slower, almost like signals. I tried to ignore it and focus on scanning for deer. But it kept nagging at me because it moved positions. 1 minute, it was on my left. Then, it seemed to come from my right. I started feeling uneasy, like something was circling me. I remember that I tried to brush it off by thinking there must be a couple of other hunters messing around, even though you usually don't see many folks out here on a weeknight. As the sun went down, I climbed down from my stand to set up a small camp about 50 yards away. I built a little fire, nothing big, just enough to see and keep warm. I was heating up a can of chili when I heard a branch snap behind me. I spun around, but the darkness was thick. I grabbed my flashlight, pointed it at the tree line, and caught a quick flash of something tall. It ducked behind a tree so fast I barely registered it. I'm used to seeing deer, black bears, sometimes a coyote or two, but this was bigger than any of those. My heart was hammering like crazy. I stepped closer, shining the light all around, but I couldn't see anything except shadows. The fire popped, and I jumped like a rookie. Usually I'm calm out there, but my nerves were shot. I remember a local rumor about folks seeing big, upright creatures in the Uwharrie Mountains, near places like Jumping Off Rock. Supposedly, there have been sightings for decades. People called them wild men or hairy men. I always thought those stories were just good campfire talk, but now I wasn't so sure. I tried to focus on my chili. It was half cold because I was too shaken to even stir it right. Then I heard this low guttural growl, almost like a throat clearing but way deeper, coming from behind a cluster of rhododendrons. The firelight didn't reach that far, so I could only see the outline of leaves. I felt like something was standing there watching me. I decided it might be best to douse the fire and slip away quietly. I know that might sound cowardly, but trust me, you feel this weird sense that you should not stay put. So I took my water canteen and poured it over the flames. Smoke rose up, and my eyes burned a bit. I heard a quick shuffle, like footsteps in the dirt, but heavier, like a person wearing boots. But I knew it wasn't a person, not by how fast and strange the steps sounded. I carefully packed up my gear, keeping my flashlight pointed in the opposite direction of where I heard it. I started backing away, moving toward a path that led to my truck. The entire time, I sensed something paralleling me, just out of sight. The undergrowth was thick, but I could hear branches snap every now and then. My flashlight wasn't powerful enough to see more than a few yards, and I was worried I'd trip if I sprinted, so I walked as quickly as I could without making too much noise. When I finally reached my truck, I climbed in and locked the doors. Like that would do any good if something that big wanted to get in. I turned the key, and my headlights lit up the trees. For just a split second, I saw a shape about 7 or 8 feet tall, huge shoulders, and a large cone-shaped head. It stared right at me with these reflective eyes, then it slid behind a tree. I nearly dropped the keys. The feeling I got in my gut was pure dread, like I just crossed a line into something I shouldn't have seen. I peeled out of there so fast, I nearly hit a stump on the way back to the main road. Once I made it to the highway, my hands were still shaking. I kept telling myself it was a bear, but I knew the silhouette didn't match. And that sense of it watching me, that was almost human, which freaked me out more than anything else. I talked to one friend who hunts in the same area, and he admitted he's heard wood knocks and weird whistling in the early morning. He said it might be Bigfoot or something else living deep in the forest, maybe near the Uhari Trail or around some old homestead ruins. I mean, there are old gold mines out there, plenty of places for something to hide. I'm not sure if I believe in Bigfoot or a creature like that, but I can't deny what I saw was real. I haven't been back to that part of the forest since. I can't stop thinking about those reflective eyes and how it seemed to know exactly where I was at all times. People have asked me why I didn't try to take a picture. My answer is, when you're that scared and your adrenaline is spiking, you don't think about proof. You think about getting out alive. I get shivers writing this, and I honestly never planned on telling anyone. I've been up to Great Smoky Mountains National Park in North Carolina a bunch of times before, usually with my dad or my friends, but this last trip was just me. Well, me and this bizarre thing I can't explain. People say weird stuff happens deep in the Smokies, especially near the more remote camping spots. I'm not sure if I got too brave or too dumb, or maybe both. But something was out there, and it changed how I see these mountains forever. I was camping at the Smokemont Campground, which is near the Oconaluftee Visitor Center, right off Highway 441. I'd heard it was a great place if you like the quieter side of the Smokies. I wanted to hike a few trails, maybe make my way up towards Clingman's Dome if I had the energy. My plan was simple: set up camp, stay for 4 nights, then head home. I had plenty of supplies, an old but reliable tent, and confidence since I'd hiked these parts a couple times when I was younger. But on the second night, things got so strange. Just before sunset, I decided to walk along the river, looking for a good spot to take some photos. I remember hearing this faint rustling off in the trees, which isn't unusual because there's all kinds of wildlife in that area: black bears, deer, even elk sometimes. But this noise felt different, like something pacing back and forth, and it was quiet, like it was trying not to be noticed. I tried to ignore it. I thought maybe my nerves were just getting the best of me. People talk about black bears all the time, but usually they keep their distance. My flashlight was still in my backpack, so I kept heading downstream. After a while, that rustling faded, and I shrugged it off. Then around midnight, I woke up in my tent because I heard heavy breathing, kind of like a wheeze mixed with a growl. I was half asleep, so at first I figured I was dreaming. But I heard twigs snap, and then the breathing got louder, closer. I grabbed my phone, which was basically useless because there's no signal out there, but I kept it in my hand anyway, like I could scare off something with a glowing phone screen. Let me back up for a second because I keep thinking about this. A ranger once told me about people who claim they've seen some sort of wolf man or big hairy dog thing in these mountains. I thought it was just a local legend, like the Cherokee stories about shapeshifters. But the breathing outside my tent had this strange snarl to it. It wasn't exactly like any animal I'd heard before. Kind of like a dog, but deeper, like it had a human voice underneath it. I'd never admit this to my dad, but I was scared to the point my hands were shaking. After maybe a minute of this, it went dead quiet. I couldn't hear any crickets, no wind, nothing. So stupid me, I thought it was safe to peek out. I slid open the tent zipper a tiny bit and my flashlight beam caught something tall. Definitely not a normal bear shape. The eyes were reflecting back at me in this weird amber color. Then it moved. It wasn't on 4 legs. It was standing, or at least crouching on 2, like a person would. My heart was racing so bad I felt like I might pass out. I ducked back in the tent, zipped up, and just sat there, holding my breath. I heard a heavy grunt and more steps, and then it sounded like it lunged toward the river. There was a splash, then everything got quiet again, except for the rush of the water. I don't know if it went into the water or jumped over it, but either way, it was gone. I stayed in my tent the rest of the night, barely blinking. Morning came, and part of me wondered if I'd dreamed it all. I went to the edge of the river and I saw these big prints in the mud. They looked like giant canine footprints, but spaced in a way that made it seem like it walked on 2 legs. I felt this chill all over, and honestly, I just tried to rub them out with my shoe so no one else would see them. I don't even know why I did that. Maybe I was afraid they'd say I made them up or something. All day, I kept telling myself I should pack up and leave, but I'm stubborn, so I decided to stay one more night. That evening, I was sitting by my fire feeling pretty tense, but nothing strange happened for hours. I started thinking maybe I had freaked out over something normal. Then I noticed the woods got silent again. Usually you can hear owls or random insects chirping. This time, it was dead quiet, except for an occasional snap of a branch. I looked around with my flashlight, but I couldn't see anything. I didn't sleep until dawn came. I spent most of the night just staring at the tent walls. First thing the next morning, I packed up and got the heck out. On my drive back, I was so wired I could barely keep the steering wheel steady. My mind wouldn't stop replaying it. That weird shape, the eyes, that feeling of being watched, and the footprints. I've told only 2 close friends about this, and they said it might have been a bear with mange or something. But I've seen black bears enough times, and this was no regular bear. I feel like I've been a nervous wreck since then. Even weeks later, I'll be doing laundry or something, and I'll remember that breathing. It's made me question a lot about these mountains I thought I knew. I don't want to sound like some big conspiracy nut, but maybe there's more to these woods than people realize. Ranger stations might have reports. Local folks might know the legends. I've heard rumors about the government ignoring non-traditional wildlife sightings out here. I used to laugh about that, but not anymore. Anyway, that's everything I remember. I'm sure I left out some details, but I just wanted to get it all off my chest. If anything like that has happened to anyone else, I'd be curious to know. I've always loved the Smokies, but now I'm not sure I can go back without thinking about what I saw, or at least what I think I saw. I don't know if you'll believe me, but I had to tell someone. Maybe it was something natural. Maybe it wasn't. But I can't shake the feeling that the Great Smoky Mountains hold secrets none of us are ready for. Stay safe if you go out there, and keep an eye on the tree line. So, it seems a solitary camper in North Carolina's Great Smoky Mountains stumbles upon a shadowy figure that seems more beast than bear. The encounter leaves her wrestling with fear and a haunting sense that the mountains hide far more than just tranquil streams and scenic trails. Next up, a ranger's patrol can be lonely, especially under the shadowy canopy of Pisgah National Forest, where every rustle of wind sounds like a voice calling from the dark. What happened one late autumn night changed a seasoned ranger's life forever, and it might just make you think twice about wandering these forest trails alone. I've been a ranger in Pisgah for about 8 years, mostly around the area near Looking Glass Rock and the Davidson River campground. I love these woods, grew up coming here with my parents. I used to think I knew every trail, every nook and cranny, but now I'm not so sure. I was doing a standard patrol in late October around 11 p.m. Usually, I just drive the service roads, check some of the more secluded spots for illegal campfires or stranded hikers. The air was cool that night, and I remember seeing a faint mist clinging to the forest floor. It felt heavier than normal, kind of like the forest was holding its breath. There's a trailhead near the Art Loeb Trail where folks sometimes leave cars overnight, and I wanted to see if any vehicles were left there. Before I even got to the parking area, I noticed this strange smell, like wet dog mixed with something metallic. Hard to describe, but it made my stomach turn. I parked the truck and got out. Right away, the engine noise died down, and I became super aware of how quiet the woods were. No crickets, no owls, nothing. I shined my flashlight around, thinking maybe there was a wounded animal or something else that might need help. There was nothing obvious at first. Then I heard what sounded like a muffled cry, maybe 30 yards off the trail. I kind of froze, not sure if it was a person or an animal. I called out, but nobody answered. So I followed the sound, stepping over rocks and fallen branches until I reached this small clearing. The moon was out, so it wasn't completely dark, but you could only see shapes and silhouettes. I spotted something crouched near a big fallen tree, and the air around it felt weird, like static electricity that makes your hair stand up. For a second, I thought it might be a bear with some kind of injury. Then it turned its head in my direction, and I realized it was way too tall and lanky for a bear. It had long arms, like strangely long, if that makes sense. The eyes reflected a kind of goldish red in my flashlight beam. I got this sudden rush of cold, like an instinct telling me to back away. My mind started racing with all the stories I'd heard from locals, stuff about people seeing weird things near Black Balsam Knob, or hearing unearthly howls at dawn. I used to brush most of those off as superstition, but seeing this thing crouched there, it felt like all those tales were swirling in my head at once. It slowly rose up, and I realized it was at least a foot taller than me. I stand 5 feet 10 inches. The shape was sort of human, but the face wasn't right. Its nose seemed flattened, and the mouth looked more canine than human. The arms ended in hands that I swear looked like they had claws. It made this low growl, but it also sounded like there was a kind of whisper underneath it, almost like someone moaning in pain. I was too stunned to move for a second. Then, without warning, it let out a sharp screech that rattled my eardrums. It darted off into the trees with impossible speed. I stood there, my flashlight shaking in my hand, half expecting it to come back. The whole clearing felt wrong, like the temperature dropped. I noticed deep impressions in the soft dirt near the fallen tree. Not quite footprints, more like these wide prints with elongated toes. I didn't stick around long enough to measure or photograph anything. The smell lingered though, that wet dog metal stench. Even after I got back to the truck, I felt like it was stuck to my uniform. I've talked to other rangers about weird stuff in the forest, unexplained howls, glimpses of odd creatures, rumors of experimental military projects in the mountains. People say there's a site near the Blue Ridge Parkway where strange lights have been reported for decades. A few old-timers even talk about a hush-hush government thing around here. I never believed any of that, at least not fully. Now I'm questioning a lot of what I thought was just folklore. When I got back to the ranger station, I wanted to file a report, but I wasn't sure what to say. How do you put that into words without sounding crazy? So I just wrote something about hearing unexplained sounds and noticing an unusual odor. I left out the part about seeing a creature. I don't want folks thinking I've lost it. For days after, I felt jumpy. Every time the wind blew against the station windows, I'd get a chill. I walked the same trail during daylight, hoping I might find a more normal explanation, Like maybe it was just a sick bear. But deep down, I know what I saw wasn't a bear, or at least not any bear we learn about in wildlife training. I've tried telling a close friend in the forestry service, and they suggested it might have been a wild person, like a hermit with some kind of disfigurement. That doesn't really fit what I saw. I've also heard a rumor about shapeshifters in these hills, an ancient legend from way back. I'm not saying that's what it was. I'm just saying it was beyond anything I've ever encountered as a ranger or a hiker, and it still keeps me up at night. There's something in Pisgah that doesn't belong in the normal world. I'm not sure if it's just one creature or if there are more, but I know for sure I'll never see that clearing the same way again. Whenever I patrol now, I keep my flashlight close, and I pay extra attention to every sound. It's like the forest knows more than it's letting on, and whatever I saw might not be done roaming these woods. And so, another strange encounter fades away. A trick of the mind, or something far more unsettling. That's for you to decide. Thank you so much for watching my stories. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support is what keeps this channel going.